Well, hello there, people. I hope you're keeping very well indeed. I've got a tasty little treat for you. Honestly, no pun intended. It's something that I've been enjoying a lot recently and want to continue to play with because it is super fun and you don't see it often. It is a Suship deck, a purebred Suship deck. Now you can kind of chop some of this up and merge it with other deck types, like the most popular one is Raigeki, but I've been waiting on this little critter here, the Suship Shari Red, to be released so that I can, just have sushis. Because as you can probably see already, there's duplicates of everything up to the max because of the consistency. I want to keep consistency with this deck, and it proves. Well, the proof is in the pudding, especially if you was to play with this. So, as always, I'll go through the monsters, then the spells, then the traps.
Although there's not really much to talk about there.
And then also the extra deck. We've got a lot to cover. Usually I will go through combos as I'm going through the monsters, but this time I'm actually going to wait till after we go through the deck content because there's so much interactivity between a lot of cards that you can't encapsulate everything by going over, single monster by single monster. I've got to point at stuff for you and show what does what. So let's just start off with the contents. We have, as mentioned, 3 Gunkan Suship Shari. We have 2 Effect Veiler, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Gunkan Suship Ikura, 3 Gunkan Suship Shirauo, 3 Gunkan Suship Shari Red, and of course, 3 Gunkan Suship Uni. Again, I think 3 Effect Veilers are too much, so do forgive there only being 2. But yeah, consistency-wise, you have to play 3 of them all, especially as there's no other Suship monsters. So there you go. That's the reasoning. When we go into the spells, you can chop and change a couple of this depending on your preference. There's Raigeki, Harpie's Feather Duster, a Pot of Avarice, 2 Unexpected Die, 2 Painful Decision, 1 Lightning Vortex, 2 Gunkan Sushipyard Seaside Supper Spot, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, and 2 Forbidden Droplet, and then for the traps, 2 Infinite Impermanence. And then when we go to the extra deck, which I'm going to throw out there's not really much wiggle room here because, putting things simply, 2 of each of the Suship Exceed monsters, I'd be uncomfortable going down to 1 because it will ruin your plays, especially with Suship Shari Red later. I'll talk about that later, like I say with the combos. So starting off, 1 number F0 Utopic Future, 1 number F0 Utopic Draco Future. We then have number 60 Dugaris the Timeless, 2 Gunkan Suship Ikura class, 1 Magic Spirit for Partu, 2 Gunkan Suship Shirauo class carrier, 2 Gunkan Suship Uni class Super Dreadnought. We've got 1 Zeus, I'm going to just call him Zeus, everyone else does, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Bujinki Ahashima, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 Access Code Talker. So, very quick rundown of the contents there. Let's go into some of the combos now. The way I like to start off, if possible, with this deck, especially going first, is to try and get out Gunkan Suship Shirauo class carrier to the field and activate its secondary effect, depending on its the units you put behind it, the materials rather. So with that, you've got to put Shirauo and preferably a Shari with it. Ideally, you want to try and add a Shari, whether it be the plain or the red, into any of these Suship Exceed cards because you'll always get an extra draw, and that draw is so good. It's so important. Come on. +1 just for Exceed summoning. It's good, right? It's good. And also, you can then end up drawing into a lot of your other Suship support cards. I say support. So the reason I say support is because you can then special summon a lot of these based on your field. So yeah, you can get constant extensions if you're quite lucky with your draws. Anyway, this card, when you use this and another material to bring the carrier out, then you get the field spell instantly into your hand. And so you can then play that instantly. And what that means is these two together mean that your Exceed summoned Suships aren't destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is just ridiculously good. Ridiculously good. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so I always like leading with that, and then if you could extend off of it, especially into more Suship cards, then you know they've got that barrier of protection from card effects of your opponent. Yeah, so super good. That's what I always like to try and lead with. Speaking of other things to be aware of when you're starting with this card, so, well, in fact, both Ikura and Shirauo are really good to have if you're able to special summon them out. And the way you can special summon them is by having one of the Shari cards on the field. Just by having that on the field, you've got the option to special summon from the hand. And when you special summon this, or rather when it's on the field, what you can do is special summon another Gunkan monster from your hand. Ideally, you want to try and do this one. And then this, the secondary effects from doing that is you can select up to 3 Shari cards to put them onto the top of your deck. I always try to go for Shari Reds. I always leave your Sharis alone till last, because otherwise you're running through your supplies of these spell cards. I'll talk more about that later. So yeah, always aim for Shari Red. And then, once you've stacked your deck with the Shari Reds, and you have this out on the field, its effect is excavate the top 3 cards of your deck. And if any of them are Shari, then you can special summon one of them to the field or add it to your hand. So either way, it's a +1. And more than likely, you're going to, Exceed summon again off of the back of that. So don't go straight into the Exceed summon of this if there's combo plays you can do, because having this out on the field, or this one, depending on what you've got, means you can do the special summon. The special summon is only applicable with the Shari, so once you Exceed summon a monster, it's no longer called Shari, so just be aware of that. So yeah, they're nice little extenders there. If we talk about Uni for a moment, so you can special summon this one in the opposite way, which is if you've got a Shari to show in your hand, then you can special summon this to the field, and in turn special summon the Shari that you've shown, which is good. And its secondary ability is you can point at any Shari monster, or sorry, any Gunkan monster, and change the level of it. So if you point at the Shari you just special summoned, then you turn it into level 5. Or if you point at the, the Uni, then it'll go down to level 4. And so you can Exceed summon off of the back of that, depending on the situation. Yes, this does have another ability of showing any Gunkan card in your hand to special summon it, but you will go -1, because if it's not a Shari, you're putting it into the bottom of the deck. So if you can, don't do that. It's got to be very special circumstances to want to be able to special summon it while going -1 there. So yeah, just be a little bit careful. If we go into Shari Red's ability, really good if you have both this and either another Shari Red in your hand or the vanilla Shari, because what you can then do is reveal the additional Shari, whichever one it is, special summon the Shari Red, you choose any of these materials from your deck to special summon, and then instantly Exceed summon into its into its Exceed Gunkan counterpart, which is really good. It might not be often that you have both in hand, or sorry, more than one of these in the hand, but when it is, it's really good to take advantage of that. So yeah, don't forget that. This is why I love searching for the reds first to have either in the hand, or to get them out of the deck and leave the standard Sharis for other cards. So if we go into that, Unexpected Die, you can only special summon out standard Shari. So if you're taking all of these out, you won't have a special summon target from the deck. And that goes for Painful Decision as well. So you send a level 4 or lower normal monster, only being Shari, to the graveyard, and then pull out either a Shari red or a standard Shari from the deck into your hand. Yeah, again, you want to leave as much ammunition in the deck as you can so you can trigger some of these other cards which are based, purely on the normal monster. The other thing to remember is not to go too ham, especially if you've got the field spell on the field, because its secondary ability is if you have a Shari of some description in your hand and your opponent does either destroy your Gunkan Exceed monster by, your special summoned, your Exceed summoned monster. I've got to say that very carefully because if you're, planning to put Monster Reborn in here or something, a special summon from the graveyard, then that doesn't count as an Exceed summon. So again, got to be very careful with the terminology here. But if your Exceed summoned Gunkan monster is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can simply reveal one of the Sharis in your hand, special summon it, and then do an instant Exceed summon into any of the Gunkan Exceed monsters, which is a really, really cool effect. And it's kind of like a nice little plan B just in case your opponent's going to run over you. Ideally, what you want to do is go into the Super Dreadnought, especially if your opponent has destroyed one of your monsters by battle, because in your opponent's battle phase, you can at least negate one card permanently on your opponent's side of the field, which is really, really handy. Other than that, if we go through the spells, a lot of it is kind of standard. I won't go through Raigeki and stuff. Pot of Avarice, your choice whether you want it in or not. I love it because you can go through your materials extremely quickly. So I have one of those. You might want to look at Lightning Vortex. I like having it in an emergency, but at the same time, sometimes it's unplayable because you've got your field spell out on the field. At the same time, though, you do have Forbidden Droplets to be able to remove your field spell to make way for this if the need arose. So just bear that in mind. The other thing you could do is even put a Nibiru in here as another out for Crossout Designator, depending on what your opponent does, because as you can imagine, there's tons of special summoning in this deck, and you will do more than 5 summons on a lot of occasions. So yeah, it's something to consider. Other than that, if we look at the extra deck, like I said, a lot of the times you want to go into the carrier first. I will talk about this one as well. Do try and use its appropriate materials to get their other abilities off. So for example, Ikura class Dreadnought can make 2 attacks in the same turn, which if you double its attack with Dagares and your opponent has a bad field or a bad hand, that's an OTK right there. Really, really good. The other ability of this one to bear in mind is if you cause battle damage by an Exceed summoned Suship monster, then you can just blow up a card on your opponent's side of the field, which is really good, especially with this one, which if you used its its Suship Uni as material, you can attack directly, so you can avoid towers and other problematic monsters. Just go straight for the life points and then blow up a card. It's great. It is great. Other than that, if you do swarm with the Exceed summoned Suship monsters, you can, in your main phase with Uni-class Super Dreadnought, whether it's main phase 1 or 2, just target as many of your opponent's cards as possible face up and negate their effects based on how many monsters you got. So if you got the Super Dreadnought, the Standard Dreadnought, and the Carrier on the field, then that's 3 negates, permanent negates. It's not that the effect ends at the end of the turn. They are negated permanently until they leave the field, which is so good, so good. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use this effect in your opponent's battle phase as well. You can't use it in the opponent's main phase, which is annoying, but the battle phase is so good, so good. If we talk a bit about the other Exceed monsters as well, depending on your hand, if you're not comfortable about leaving your level 4 Exceed monsters on the field if there's no protection, say, or if you use Magic Key Spirit for Partu, then you can go into Utopic Future and then go straight into Utopic Draco Future. Something to bear in mind, if you can, is getting this card out, depending on the situation, because when you link summon it, only takes 2 materials, you can then special summon a monster from your graveyard and a monster from your hand with the same level. So in theory, you get one of your materials back straight away because you're resurrecting it from the graveyard. And then if you special summon an Exceed monster where it points to, and I mean in this case it would be either Vipatu or Dagaris or even Utopic Draco Future, if they have to detach a material, then this card in response can blow an opponent's not a monster, an opponent's card on the field, which is super good to remember. Downside of it is you can't use this as link material afterwards, so it's kind of just sitting there as a 1500 attack base monster after a little while. So yeah, kind of blows, but it's something to bear in mind, especially you know, like I say, with its secondary ability and its resurrection ability. Super good cards there. I won't talk about Zeus or Masquerena or Unicorn or Access Code Talk. They're the kind of generic cards, but you know, I figure I'd talk about the more, the other nuances here. I didn't talk about Magic Key Spirit for Partu. Its effect, when you special summon it out from the extra deck, you can attach material, add 1 level 4 normal monster from your deck or your graveyard. You're always going to want to go for the graveyard because again, you want to try and leave ammunition in your deck to be able to use your spell cards there. So do bear that in mind. And I think that about covers everything. It's a super fun deck to play with. Can catch people off guard. Even if people are aware of the Sue ships, you've got quite a bit of negation in here as well, which is enough to really scupper your opponent. And so that's the other thing with Effect Veiler. Sure, Suship Uni Class Super Dreadnought can't negate in your opponent's main phases, but Effect Veiler can. So that's why that is there. Anyway, I talked about this enough. Here's the deck list. It's super cheap to make, ignoring the generic ultra rares. You can see even the boss monsters of the Sue ships are super rare. I highly recommend it. It's super enjoyable, so give it a bash. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video as well, if you could give me a little like, that would know that again, or that would let me know again that you guys enjoy watching this sort of content and to make further deck lists. I'm super proud of this. Again, very fun deck. So let me know your thoughts. And until next time, everyone, you all take care, and I will see you again soon.